I'm here today with Tom Johnson from iwocaPay, and we're going to be looking at how you can reduce the administration burden of your clients owing you money. So hello, Tom.
Hi, Simon. Good to be here.
Good. Hello, Tom. And I can't wait to get started. Without further ado, with a virtual round of applause, it's Tom Johnson. Go,
Tom.
Thank
you, Simon. Yeah, thank you. And thanks, obviously, everybody that's taken the time out of their day to sit here and hear me talk. So, like I said, what we're going to do, and like Simon introduced, is we're going to run through iwocaPay and how accountants are using iwocaPay to reduce the stress of chasing outstanding debt. The idea is I want to give you a bit of a visual and understanding of actually how much of a problem chasing debt is, then show you exactly how iwocaPay is built to solve this problem. I'm going to show you iwocaPay in a demo, and then obviously I'll recap that. So by the end of this, you'll know exactly the problem iwocaPay is solving, how it might work for yourself, and exactly how the product works. So iwocaPay was built to tackle this traditional model of payments, and a lot of people are probably accustomed to this. We know from Xero that small businesses, on an average, 48% of them are paid late. And a large part of it is to do with the traditional model of payments. A lot of invoicing is after the fact. The work is done, the invoice is sent, the due date comes around, and then there's this big uncertain period between the due date and the payment. And over 2020, Xero estimated that actually that due date to payment date, that actual debited days, that period actually increased by 8 days. And actually it's that uncertainty that causes real big problems to a small business's cash flow. I mean, as accountants, you'll know it in your own business and you'll know it in your client's business. And a large part of where that starts is this model. Like I said, it's a traditional, it's after the fact. And then we look at the actual payments and the way that businesses get paid. So we've conducted a lot of research, and we've pulled from lots of different reports, and we actually found that 80% of business to business transactions are made via bank transfer, which is one of the reasons why maybe your invoice is getting paid late. Because whilst the bank transfer is free and to an extent is relatively easy, it's incredibly manual. And again, from Xero and QuickBooks, we know invoices with online payment options are actually twice as likely to get paid than any of their counterparts. Yet 80% of B2b transactions are bank transfer. And say, for example, I send you an invoice out for works done. We get to the due date again after the fact, and bank transfer is the way that I want you to pay me. You have to come away from what you're doing. You have to come, if that invoice is sent through Xero, QuickBooks, and online, you have to actually physically come away from what you're doing to go into your banking app to add me as a account, or add my account details, add my sort code, add my name, probably go through that verification step. If you've got your card reader, maybe you have to go and find that. There's so many steps, and we know that steps equal barriers, and barriers is what delays payment. So we then look at the other payment options, right? So there's card payments, there's direct debits, and they're great, but they also come with a cost. The average cost for traditional payment methods to a seller is 0.25% all the way up to 2.5%. We look at card payments, which are widely accepted in a lot of spaces. Some of those card payments can take up to 20 clicks to actually get through. Again, more steps equals more barriers. And then you've gone through this period where you've sent your invoice, you've chased it, you've finally got the person to make payment, and then you have to wait maybe 1 to 14 days for that money to actually settle in your account, which then just adds to that cash flow problem. And we here at Iwoka, we've served over 50,000 businesses now. And we basically asked our customers, why are they coming to us for funding? And the ones that we specifically targeted around cash flow funding told us this: that 90% of them offer payment terms. They have a payment term. I do this piece of work, you need to pay me within this period of time. Yet nearly half of those businesses that were coming to us had £10,000 in outstanding invoices. And what they've told us now is that they're more likely to ask customers to pay upfront or on shortened terms. So we know that there's this problem, right? We know that traditional payment models and payment methods cause a problem. That's why 48% of businesses are paid late. So we want to actually see what that looks like for your admin and how much time is actually physically lost chasing invoices. And we know from QuickBooks research they did in 2020 that the average SME loses 2 whole working weeks a year chasing outstanding debt. So if we take from the business advice report of 21, the average SME turns over £530,000 a year. Essentially, this debt problem, the way that they're invoicing after the fact with their traditional payment methods, this problem is costing an average SME, and obviously you can do the same calculation with your own turnover, is costing around £20,000 a year of lost time. That's potentially another employee, maybe a sales rep. There's a bunch of time that's lost, and you've got to start asking those questions of, what would you do with an extra 2 working weeks? What would you do with an extra 2 working weeks of time to charge? How much more revenue could you bring into your business? So that's the real point that we need to focus on. That actually traditional payment methods and traditional models of payment are costing an average SME, maybe yourself, 2 working weeks in administration. And on top of that, that average billable time is about 20 grand's worth of work that's lost a year simply because the payment methods aren't right. So we built iwocaPay to solve that problem. I told you at the beginning of the webinar, I wanted to tell you exactly what iwocaPay was built to solve. And it was that problem. We wanted to be able to offer or enable our vendors, our sellers, we wanted them to offer a checkout, a way that a business could either pay instantly there and then, or actually spread the cost of an invoice. Because if I send an invoice out and I've only got one method of payment, if that doesn't fit me as a customer or a client paying that invoice, I might struggle to pay that invoice, or I'll defer it. So we built iwocaPay with 2 things. We have the Pay Now. So Pay Now is a instant payment solution. It sits on the invoice, and all I have to do as a customer is I click Pay Now. And again, I will show you this, and it takes 3 clicks. So versus that card payment that can take up to 20 clicks, it takes 3 clicks for a customer to actually make a payment. And it's instant. As soon as that goes through, you're paid. There's no time to settle, and there's actually no transaction costs on Pay Now. It's completely free. And then we have the other side of iwocaPay, which is the pay later side of the product. And that was built to help those customers that wanted to maybe offer better terms or actually reduce the credit risk. So like I said earlier in the research that we conducted on our own clients, there was a lot of businesses that said they wanted to offer shortened terms or get paid up front. Yet the methods of doing that tend to be, again, analog and away from this online payment tool. And we know online payments get invoices paid twice as fast. So we wanted to build and spread the cost online version. So we built the pay later side of iwocaPay. That enables a customer to spread the cost of an invoice over 90 days in 3 installments. There's absolutely 0 credit risk to the seller. We take on all of the risk. There's no recourse. There's no chargeback. There's 0 setup and running costs. So to actually have an iwocaPay account is completely free. There's no obligation to use it on all of your invoices. It's kind of you're at the driving seat. With the pay later side, there's a 15K limit, and there is a charge for pay later. But the beauty of this is you as a seller, you can decide whether the client pays that charge or you pay that charge. So with iwocaPay, what we did is we built this online payments tool that empowers the client to pay, because they can either pay instantly or spread the cost. Yet you, as a vendor, as a seller, you're in the driving seat on pricing when you offer it. And we find that this shortens that debitor day. that traditional invoice of here's my invoice, here's the due, eventually I'm going to get paid. Actually, it becomes here's my invoice, and clients are more engaged to pay it. We know from our own businesses using it, we've got many accountants who use iwocaPay now, that actually what we're doing is we're reducing the risk of overdue debt. Having an outstanding invoice is a credit risk. So we're reducing that risk and we're helping guarantee that cash flow. But also, if you can offer better terms to a customer, you can begin to gain a better competitive market advantage. And I've got a link I can share with you afterwards with a case study on just how one of our accountants is offering his clients a competitive advantage by offering pay now or pay later. We know that also iwocaPay improves conversion and actually order value. If people can spread the cost, they tend to buy more or spend more. But probably the key here is the way iwocaPay is built and how self-serving it is. It's built to reduce the time on businesses underwriting their own invoices or chasing terms or simply just chasing payments. So that's the benefit to Iwoka. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you exactly how iwocaPay works. So let's get into this one here. So you should all be able to see my other screen. Cool.
Yeah,
so
got that, Tom.
Yeah, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the integration with Xero. So right now we only have an direct integration into Xero, but what we do have, and you'll see in a minute, is a customizable link that can actually be added into, and we've got a guide on how you add it into QuickBooks, as well as obviously Sage and any other, basically any point where there is a digital footprint, whether that be a website, an email, you can add iwocaPay into that. So like I said, I'm going to show you iwocaPay now. So when you get your iwocaPay account, this is what it looks like. You have this generic pay link here. So this is a pay link that can actually be, like I said, that can be added into emails, that can be added into websites. And when somebody clicks through that, they go straight through to iwocaPay. You can also customize that link down here. So create a customized link. We have a lot of accountants. What they do is they create a customized link for tax investigation and insurance, add that to the website, and clients can go and purchase that straight away. So that's the general overview of what your account looks like and what you can do. What I'm going to show you is iwocaPay in action. So when you link with Xero, all you have to do is you link to Xero. There's not a huge amount to show you here. All you do is you say to Xero, what organization is iwocaPay going to go to, and then add it to an invoice branding theme. So when iwocaPay is added into Xero, it becomes the default option for payment. So all you need to do is select invoice branding theme. Again, if you're not using Xero, you can just take the generic or the customized pay link and just add that into your payments device or into your invoice email. So what you're seeing now is an invoice has gone out and the client has received it. So this is where we are now. So we're going to see
just before you do that, Tom, I've got a question from Greg.
Yeah.
On the URL, the customizable URL,
yeah,
the bit at the beginning, the iwokapay.co.uk stays the same. It's the bit after the URL that you can customize. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly right. So what I'll do is off the back of this demo, I'll show you one of our accountants that's done that so you can see the link firsthand.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Cool. So yeah, so like I said, what you've got now is from the client's perspective. So you've done a piece of work and you've sent your invoice out to the client. But first and foremost, like I said, it's really important to know invoices with online payments get paid twice as fast. So the first thing you're doing to improve your payments is you're offering an online payments tool. So as a client, I click through the reference. If it's come from, like I said, Xero or a customized URL link, the reference will be filled in and the amount will be filled in. I then, as a customer, can either pay now or pay later. One of the biggest problems with B2b transactions is they're very strict and very restricted. When you, for example, buy something in a business to consumer world, think about when you've gone maybe on John Lewis or Amazon or maybe JD Sports. When you get through to that checkout experience, you have all these different ways to pay. And that's what we brought into the B2B world. So a client clicks through, they choose pay now or pay later. So with the pay now, all I have to do is hit pay now, secure checkout. If I'm on a desktop computer, I'll click who my bank is, so NatWest. And then what will happen is once the screen loads, is I get presented with this QR code. Now, if I'm doing this on my phone, this QR code screen won't appear. My banking app will just open up. But if I'm on the desktop, all I need to do is either get my phone out and scan this QR code, or if I don't want to go on my phone, I just hit continue via desktop. But I'll show you with the phone. So I'll scan that QR code with my phone. My banking app will open up, so it will automatically pop up. And now as a client, say for example, I'm one of your clients, all I'll see now as a client is I'll see who it's going to. So your accountancy name, your account number, your sort code, and the amount. All I have to do as a client at this point is hit make a transfer. And then I get this nice little payment receipt that I can send to myself. So from the Xero perspective, what happens is I've sent out my invoice, my client hits the pay now, they then obviously make the payment. We'll then push that back into Xero to say, hey, the payment's come through, and show that the invoice has been paid, and you're good to go. So not only are you getting the instant payment, but you're also with Xero, you're getting the instant reconciliation. For the other accountancy softwares, all you're getting is the on the bank transfer side of things, on the actual bank feed, you'll see the payment come in for you then to obviously match it to the invoice. So that's the pay now side of the product. What we're going to show you is the pay later side of the product. So if we just do ref here. So again, what we can do here is if I send out a generic pay link, so just an empty pay link, as a customer, I can actually enter the reference and I can enter the amount as well. So you can actually give customers control, or again, if you don't want to give them that control, you just send the invoice through Xero or send the customized link. So like I said, I'm going to show you pay later. So with pay later, at the moment, the product will only support limited companies or liability partnerships. So for pay now, anybody can use the product. It can be a sole trader, it can be an individual, anyone can use pay now. For pay later, we only support limited companies and liability partnerships. The reason why is we are effectively lending a small sum of money to a business. So we need to make sure we're doing our due diligence. So as a customer, if I don't have an account with Iwoka or iwocaPay, if I've never done this before, I just need to go through these steps. So enter my business information, enter my director information, and then within 60 seconds, what's going to happen is we're going to generate a payment plan for that customer and say, for you to spread the cost, here's what it's going to cost you. And like I said, the first 30 days are either interest free, or if as a vendor, you don't want to receive that 3% transaction charge that we take, you can actually put that onto the client. So basically you can either give your client a 30-day interest-free period and you'll get billed 3% when they use pay later, or you can put that onto the client and you won't get billed any transaction costs for pay later, but your client will just start paying interest from day one. So that's how the pricing for pay later works. Again, as a customer, all I've done is I've entered that piece of information, I've read the T's and C's, and then complete the checkout. Again, if I'm already an Iwoka customer or I've already used iwocaPay, I don't need to go through these steps. But if it's the first time using the product, I just need to quickly do an on-FIDO check. And then it's at this point here where things get really interesting. So we just need to link a debit card. So that's how we'll take repayments from the client, the end user. Once they've entered their details here and hit complete checkout, what happens is we are now paying that invoice to you as a vendor. You've just been paid in full by Iwoka. So we use faster bank transfer to actually get that money straight to you. So by the time the customers hit this screen here, we've taken obviously the first installment. They've got the ability to spread the cost. So they now have 2 payments to make after this. You as a vendor, you've just been paid upfront and in full for that total invoice value. So that's the Iwoka, like I said, the Iwoka Pay in its entirety, just to show you how iwocaPay looks for those customized and those general invoice screens. So you should hopefully, can you see this screen here?
Yes,
payment
I can,
details.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So this, as you can see, this is just a generic pay link, right? So I can come in, I can enter the amount and reference. So you can add iwocaPay to your invoice and hit pay your invoice. But where we've then got the customization of it, so if we go to tax investigation insurance here, and get that to load hopefully, and then go to the buy now. As you can see, obviously there's a slight, that's the customization here. So when we customize in our dashboard, what we're doing is we're customizing these bits here. The reference and the amount are locked. And then obviously as a customer, I can either come and pay that now or pay that later. So that's just to show you the customized and generic links if you were not going through Xero. So that's the part of iwocaPay that I wanted to show you there. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to present back to my my screens just to kind of summarize the difference between pay now and pay later. Just before I do that, is there any more questions?
I've got a question, Tom. During when you began during the introduction, you said that was non-recourse, or the payment is non-recourse. So what happens on that $3,000? The client pays the first installments, and then they fail to pay the second installment. What happens then? Yeah,
so it's kind of our problem, right? Basically, at Iwoka, we have a whole humans collection team. So we understand that you don't necessarily want your client to maybe have a debt with us and us send loads of chasing, etc. So what would happen is we first and foremost, we send a reminder to the client, to the end user. You as a vendor, you won't be aware, mainly obviously the GDPR reasons, but mainly because you don't take on that risk. We take that risk on. So we send a reminder, probably send a secondary reminder, say, hey, by the way, you haven't paid. We have a very kind of nice tone of voice in those. And then what would happen is one of our team would actually reach out to the customer with the goal of trying to get them back on track. Maybe that's through like a minimum payment, or maybe we need to support that customer. And then eventually the very worst case down the line is we kind of have the discretion of what we're going to do with that debt. That's very, very, very worst case scenario. But what happens in the very few instances that this has happened previously is by the time one of our team has actually called them, we're able to get that client back on track. So the whole idea is that we help businesses get back on track and actually help them with manage kind of their own credit, because obviously the better we do that, the more likely they're to use us again. So that's how, but from your side,
completely non-recourse. It can go forever and a day, and the only person basically, once they've clicked the button and they've paid $3,000, the only person that doesn't potentially get paid is iwocaPay. So I'm always in the clear.
Yeah, exactly right. And on the pay now, there's no chargeback either.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And then Nathan's asked, do you support all UK banks?
About 97% of UK banks. There are a few that we don't support, which obviously I can get the list, but they tend to be more of your like your Crown Independent type banks. But all the high street banks we support.
Excellent, thank you.
Perfect, cool. So I'll just go back to sharing my screen. So just to kind of, like I said, just to recap, the pay now is free for you and your customers. It's completely, we're using open banking, so it's streamlined and secure. And it's that smart alternative to card payment. So it's just an instant payment that takes 3 clicks to pay. The pay later side of the things, again, the customer chooses. So this is the important bit to take away, is actually the customer that chooses how they pay. And we know that when somebody is empowered to choose how they pay, they're more likely to pay on time or quicker. So with the pay later, your customer can spread the cost over 90 days. We take on all the risk, and the fees are so straightforward. So basically, you can either have pay later for free, or you can take on a transaction cost. If you take on a transaction cost, your client gets the first 30 days interest free, and then on payments 2 and 3, there's a small interest charge on that. If you don't want to receive that transaction cost and you say, I want pay later to be free for me, then your client just pays interest from day 1 rather than day 31. And that's how pay later works. The only cost for iwocaPay is when pay later is used. And the only cost for you is if you choose to take that on. Otherwise, your client takes on all the cost. And again, it's them who's choosing to do that. To have an iwocaPay account is completely free as well. And then here's what some of our accountants are saying about us. The great example here, which I always refer to, is Stu Hurst, when he told us about one of his clients that they've been chasing a debt. So this client was actually on direct debit, but this is a backlog of direct debit from COVID. It was £890. It was overdue. They offered iwocaPay, and the client went and used iwocaPay straight away. They've been chasing a debt for a while. As soon as they then sent their iwocaPay invoice out, the client used pay later, and the invoice was settled there and then. And then we've got a lot of obviously accountants that kind of say that along the lines of it's super simple to use, clients really love the product, and it's super speedy. And that's the general theme. So the question then is, what next? Like, what if you like iwocaPay, you like what we're about? The first thing to do is become an iwocaPay seller yourself. So I believe Mark should be sharing a link to our fast track HubSpot form. All you need to do is enter those details that we need. So your email, your name. We do a KYC check, so a know your customer check. So we do need a director's DOB and residential address. All that does is you fill those details in. Our team in the background will do the KYC, set your account up. And then once your account's set up, one of our onboarders will actually reach out to you. So they'll give you a call, run you through our iwocaPay, make sure you understand how the product works, link it to Xero if you need linking to Xero, or tell you how to use it with the other softwares and make sure you're all set up. And then obviously once you've set out iwocaPay, and that would be my recommendation, is even if you only use it a couple of times, just get a feel for the product. Again, it's free and there's no obligation for you to use the product. But once you're in that position there, you're then able to refer clients. We can offer you a commission as well as giving your clients an incentive as well. So you're able to refer your clients. And then the third step is we'll work with you to give you the marketing and education materials. If you've got staff that you want to make sure that they understand iwocaPay or how to position it, we'll help with that. Maybe you want to run a webinar to your clients, we'll do all of that. But the first step is set yourself up as an iwocaPay seller. Like I said, it's free. There's no obligation. Once you understand how it works in that process, start referring your clients where you see it fit, and then we'll support you along that way. And that's pretty much everything from me. There's not it's quite a simple product, so there's not a huge amount to cover, but hopefully I've done a good enough job for you to take everything you need away. Obviously, if you've got any other questions, I'm about to answer. But thank you for your time.
Brilliant, Tom. We've got a couple of more questions coming. Mark's just popped one in, and I've got some questions as well as my own. Mark has popped the link in the chat box. So in order to sign up with Tom and iwocaPay, all you need to do is click that link and put in your details, and then away you go. And that is completely free, Tom. That's correct, yeah? So there's absolutely no cost to you whatsoever. So let's just fire through some questions then, Tom. Mark's asked, how will this look when I send invoices through QuickBooks? How much manual intervention do I need to do?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the manual side really depends on you. So like I said, we've got a whole guide on how you can actually add it into your payment advice and the email that gets sent from QuickBooks, how you can actually add iwocaPay into that. So you can either, just what a lot of our sellers do that use QuickBooks is send out the generic iwocaPay link. So that's added in, they send that out, and the client just clicks through. All the client has to do is enter the reference and amount. That's all they have to do. So if you're sending out the generic, if you want to send out a customized link, so where the reference and amount is set, then that's where it will be more manual for you as a QuickBooks user right now, in the sense that you'll have to go in and create that individual pay link and add it to your invoices. So the best bet is to just utilize the generic pay link, add that into your, I believe it's the payment advice. I'm not perfectly au fait with QuickBooks, but like I said, there's a guide, and our onboarding team will set that all up for you, and then away you go.
So if I turn that into my language, Tom, your choice is that you put a generic link basically in the remittance advice on the invoice, so that can just go out automatically. Alternatively, you can go in and set up a customized link where you would put the reference in and the amount in, and send that to the customer for the customer to click on.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Abil's asked, what is the ideal revenue or sales invoice amount that iwocaPay can be used to resolve late payment issues? So is there a minimum payment and a maximum payment?
Yeah, so with the pay now side of the product, the instant side, there's no real minimum maximum. It's just soft limits based on the bank. So which they tend to be, pay now tends to be instant, is up to 10K, but again, it's on the bank. For the pay later side of things, we do a minimum of £150 and we go up to £15,000. So that's on the pay later side of the product.
Okay, thank you. And then Andy's asked, and I think you've already said this during the course of the presentation, but Andy's asked, does this work with sole traders as well as companies?
Yeah. So the pay now, anybody can use that. Anybody can use that. For the pay later, right now, it's only limited companies and liability partnerships.
Okay. So to press the, and because I'm a sucker for a gadget, I have, because when it's like when I go in and have to put in the sort code and the account number and press the button and all the rest of it, that really winds me up. So, and it don't take that long, really, does it? But when you show the QR code and I can point to the screen and it can do it all automatically for me, then it's like my little eye is lit up with that one time. So anybody can do that. Sole traders, anybody can do that. It's only the pay later function where it's for limited liability partnerships and limited companies, and that's because of the credit reference.
Yeah, exactly right. And also, just on that pay now, we find natural curiosity actually gets people to pay the invoice, because by the time, like I said, 3 clicks, by the time you've actually, especially if you're on your phone, by the time you've chosen your banking app is opened. So you're not coming away from that journey. You're always in that same journey of invoice straight through to payment rather than invoice come away, which is quite an interesting thing that we found.
Excellent, thank you. So we've got 2 more questions. If anybody else is listening and got any questions, please pop them in the Q&A box before we disappear. So Bill's asked, how does the status sync with the accounts system? So how is it instant, or does it do it overnight, or?
No, as soon as payment's done, both pay now and pay later, it's pushed back in. If it's in 0, we push it straight back in and we reconcile the payments made. If it's obviously through the QuickBooks, etc., which uses the customized or the generic pay link, then we'll just push that back through on the bank feed. So as soon as payment happens, it pushed back in.
And there it is. Okay, thank you. And then the last question that I've got is from Mark. Once you sign up, can you use iwocaPay to get paid for existing invoices or just new ones going forward?
No, it's kind of your choice which invoices you want to send that. If you've got obviously outstanding debt, yeah, great. Send an iwocaPay link out to them.
Thank you. So if we've got an accountant, or if I know an accountant that's got a bit like your example with Stuart, where the direct debit got behind during COVID, if I know an accountant that's got somebody like that, basically they could collect those outstanding direct debits and pay them through iwocaPay. Yeah,
exactly right. So what we've had is, I don't know the complete intricacies of it, but we've had some accountants that have got like those 3 or 4 invoices that are overdue, and I don't know whether I think what they've done is they've sent out the iwocaPay link for the total amount. When that's then come through to the bank feed, they've then essentially split the payments to those outstanding invoices. I know some also essentially just void those invoices and just have one central invoice that they send out. I guess it's really up to you how you want to do it from an admin standpoint.
Thank you. And then Malcolm's asked, is it always 3 months on pay later?
So that's what we offer. We always offer the pay like the 3 months, but it's actually, if the client wants to pay off early, so say for example they just wanted maybe an extra 30 days, then they can pay it off early and there's no extra cost for them. So whatever day they want to pay it off, they can. We'll naturally take the 3 months, but if they come and say, right, I want to pay it all off in day 32, they can, and they'll only pay especially on the interest side, they'll only pay for what they've used.
Okay, so if they want to do it over 6 months, for example, Tom, you and I don't know whether this is allowed within the credit reference acts and all that sort of stuff, but if they want to do it over 6 months, could you set up 3 months and then in 3 months time do another 3 months? So do half, for example, and then do a half in 3 months time. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as they don't have an existing outstanding pay later debt with us, then they can use it as much as they want. We are as well, what we're going to be bringing in very soon, I'll probably get told off for telling you this, but we're bringing in multi-transactions. What that means is a customer will be essentially approved for a limit up to a certain amount, and then they can choose which invoices they fund as well. So they could actually have multiple invoices funded at once.
Thank you. So that's all the questions that I've got. Just checking the chat boxes and all the rest of it. That's all the questions that I've got, Tom. As I said, the link to enter your details to connect with iwocaPay is in the chat box. So please click that link now and pop those details in, and then Tom and the iwocaPay team can get you set up. So that just leaves me to say thank you for everybody coming along and for the questions that you ask. I always say that it's the questions that you ask as the community that make these events unique. So thank you very much for coming along and asking those questions. And then finally, thank you to Tom for coming along and sharing how iwocaPay can be used within our accountancy practices in order to make the debt collection far easier and less of an administration burden. So thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And I will see you all again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching this video with Tom Johnson from iwocaPay. As always, if you've got value from this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel so you get notified the next time we upload a video for you. And if you have any comments or questions for me or Tom, please post them below this video and we will gladly answer them. On the screen now, you should see the next 2 videos that we suggest that you watch in order to inspire, challenge, and support you to run a better accountancy practice.